I want you to just picture a scenario for a second. It is like 35 degrees outside. You're standing in your kitchen. You're already sweating.
Oh, I know this feeling.
Right. You've got a 5-year-old who is just vibrating with energy, asking for a snack for probably the 10th time. And you have a 2-year-old who is, let's say, trying to peel a sticker off the dog.
A very patient dog.
And somewhere in the back of your mind, there's this little nagging voice. It's saying, you're homeschooling. You are responsible. You need to teach them something. Maybe science today. Should we sit down and draw a diagram of the sun?
Oh, please, for the love of sanity, just put down the diagram.
Right, because honestly, on a day that hot, the idea of wrestling 2 kids into chairs to do a worksheet on UV radiation just sounds like absolute torture for everyone.
It is. But here's the thing, and this is really why we're doing this deep dive. If you're homeschooling a foundation-age child, that 4 to 6 range, probably with a toddler underfoot.
Which so many are.
Exactly. The playground isn't just an escape from the lesson. The playground is the lesson.
It's the classroom, the textbook, the whole thing.
All rolled into one. And our mission today is really to give you permission to stop teaching in that old school sense. We are going to reject the worksheets. We're going to reject, lectures about vitamin D or skin cancer.
Right.
Instead, we're going to look at how you teach sun safety entirely through play and routine and just sensory experience.
Which sounds amazing in theory, but I'll play devil's advocate for a second. If I'm not standing there with a whiteboard explaining solar flares, aren't I just babysitting? I think there's a fear that if we aren't talking, they aren't learning.
That is the single biggest misconception, I think, in early childhood. If you're trying to explain abstract concepts to a 5-year-old while they're sweating and distracted, you're literally fighting their biology.
Yeah.
The core philosophy we're unpacking today is that you, the parent, are the program. If your child independently goes and gets a hat, or seeks out shade because they feel hot, they have learned more than any worksheet could ever teach them.
Okay, so the goal is behavior, not memorization. We have this stack of notes here that outlines a really specific framework. It's called prime, play, pause, repeat. It sounds super simple, but when I was reading through the research, there's actually a lot of cognitive science packed into those 4 words.
There is. And this whole framework, it's designed to reduce the amount of talking you do and, increase the amount of doing the child does.
So let's break this down. Let's start with prime. The notes say this takes what, maybe 30 to 60 seconds? Max. But it's not just giving an instruction. It's not put your shoes on.
No, it's deeper. Think about how the brain works. We have this thing, the reticular activating system, or RAS.
The filter.
It's basically a filter that decides what information gets through. If you don't set that filter, the child's brain is just, it's just taking in noise. The dog, a toy, feeling hungry. Prime is about setting that filter.
So you're telling their brain what data to look for.
Exactly. You're planting a seed. You might just say, today is a hot day. The sun is strong. We look after our bodies. That's it.
That's the whole thing.
That's the prime. You're not lecturing. You're just setting the dial.
The sun is strong. That becomes the filter.
Right. So now when they step outside and that heat actually hits their skin, their brain immediately connects it to your statement. Oh, the sun is strong. If you'd given them a 5-minute lecture on UV rays, they would have tuned you out before you even opened the door.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've primed, now we move to play, and this is the part where the parent kind of steps back.
This is the bulk of the time, yeah. 10, 20, 40 minutes, whatever happens. The child leads. Your job here isn't teacher. It's more like a sportscaster.
A sportscaster?
You just narrate what matters, but only when it naturally happens. You don't stop the flow.
So give me an example. If they run under a tree, do I stop them and say, good job finding shade?
You don't even need the good job. Just describe the reality. You found the shade. It's cooler here. You're just naming the sensation. You're connecting that physical relief to the word cool.
And then comes the pause. This is after the play is over.
Yep. A really brief reflection, 30 seconds maybe.
Right.
You could ask, how did your skin feel when we were in the sun? Or what happened to your energy when you sat in the shade? You're just asking them to check in with their own body.
Their own biology, yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, repeat, which I'm guessing doesn't mean do the exact same activity right away.
No, repeat refers to the language, and this is a big one. This is where we parents often trip up. We get bored, so we change our words.
Oh, I'm so guilty of this.
Right. Monday you say, the sun is strong. Tuesday it's scorching. Wednesday it's intense.
Yes. I do that because I think I'm expanding their vocabulary, I feel like I'm being a good teacher by introducing words like blistering or searing.
And I get it, but for a foundation-age child, that just creates noise. They're trying to build a really solid concept. If you change the label every day, the concept gets fuzzy.
So stick to the script.
Stick to the target words. Strong, hot, shade, cool. Use them every single time until that neural pathway is a superhighway.
Consistency builds the vocabulary. Okay, I want to get practical now because we talked about the framework. But maybe the hardest part of the day is just getting out the door.
The transition, oh yeah.
You call the get ready routine. And looking at the research here, this is actually where the academic stuff is hiding, isn't it?
It is. This is pure math and logic in disguise.
So paint the picture. We've got our 2-year-old and our 5-year-old. The hallway is chaos. How do we turn this into a lesson?
Okay, so for the toddler, it's pure mimicry. You want visuals. Have a specific basket just for hats. Have a water station they can actually reach.
So they're not climbing the counter.
Exactly. And your script is almost robotic, but in a good way. Hat on, drink water, sunscreen time.
Simple input-output command.
Yes, it just becomes a ritual. But for the 5-year-old, the foundation kid, you extend that into responsibility. You shift the script. Instead of a command like, put your hat on, you say something like, I check if I need a drink, or I remember my hat. You're shifting it to self-regulation.
And where's the math in that? Because I'm not seeing any numbers in I remember my hat.
The math is in the sequencing. Think about algebra or coding. It's all based on logic. If A, then B, then C.
Okay.
When a child learns that a specific set of actions happens in a specific order every single time, hat, then water, then outside, they are literally building the cognitive architecture for sequencing.
So we aren't counting apples, but we are teaching them.
Yeah.
What, just algorithmic thinking?
That's exactly it. It's predictive logic. If the routine is chaotic, the brain just stays in survival mode. If the routine is a predictable sequence, the brain switches to executive function. They start anticipating what's next. That is a pre-numeracy skill that is so much more valuable at this age than memorizing that 2 + 2 is 4.
That is fascinating. It really reframes the drudgery of the hallway battle. You're not just nagging, you're coding their brain for logic.
And you can add counting naturally if you want to. We have 3 hats, 1, 2, 3. But don't turn it into a quiz.
Right. Don't say how many hats are there.
No, just count them yourself. They're listening, they're absorbing it.
Okay, so we're out the door, we're primed, we're safe. Now we're in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
The notes suggest turning the outdoors into a science lab. But again, you're adamant. No worksheets.
Please, no worksheets. The focus for foundation science is cause and effect. Simple as that.
I love this body experiment you mentioned in the sources. This feels so simple, but it really tackles that biological awareness we talked about.
It's the most direct way to teach heat. You just stand in the sun for 30 seconds, then you move to the shade. And you touch your arm or your face.
And for the toddler, it's just sensory, right? It's hot sun, cool shade.
Yes. Hot, cool, that's the whole vocabulary. But for the foundation child, you ask them to compare. Which felt hotter? Why do we rest here? You're asking them to notice the physiological change in their own body. That is biology and physics happening in real time.
And then there's the ice cube race. Now, I was reading about this, and the part that jumped out at me was about failure. The source explicitly says to let them be wrong. That is so hard for parents, isn't it?
It is incredibly hard. So here's the setup. 2 ice cubes. 1 in direct sun, 1 in the shade. Before they melt, you ask the 5-year-old, which ice cube do you think will melt first?
And what if they see the one in the shade? What if they have some kid logic, like the tree will eat it or something? Every bone in my body wants to say, actually, sweetie, let's think about the heat.
Resist that urge. Glue your mouth shut. This is so crucial. If you correct them, you are teaching them to look to you for the answer.
Oh.
If you stay quiet, you teach them to look to the world for the answer.
And you let the experiment provide the answer.
Exactly. The result is undeniable. The sun ice is a puddle, while the shade ice is still mostly solid. You can't argue with a puddle. And that visual anchor, the melting ice, that's what they'll remember. They aren't memorizing a fact you told them. They're witnessing physics.
And that creates a much stronger memory.
So much stronger. So later, when they're running around getting red in the face, you can say, remember the ice cube? The sun makes things hot. Shade slows it down. They don't want to be the melting ice.
I want to shift gears a little bit to context. Because depending on where you're listening from, seasons look different. But the research brings up a really specific and beautiful context with the Noongar season of Bunuru.
Yes, Bunuru is a season in the Noongar calendar, usually late summer. And it's all about that dry heat and living near the coast.
And the reason for including this isn't just to check a box for cultural studies, is it? It's about a different way of seeing time. In the West, we're so obsessed with dates. December 1st hits, and we say it's summer, even if it's cold and raining.
Right. We look at the calendar to tell us the weather, but indigenous knowledge systems, like with Bunuru, look at the land to tell the time. It's what we call listening to country.
So how do we explain this to a toddler versus a 5-year-old without it becoming a history lecture?
For toddlers, again, it's all sensory. Bunuru is a hot season, the ground is dry, you're just talking about what they can actually feel and see. The wind is warm.
And for the foundation child, this seems like a perfect way to build those observation skills from the ice cube experiment.
Exactly. You turn them into detectives. You ask, what is the country telling us today? Look at the grass. Is it yellow and crunchy? Feel the wind. You can focus on adaptation. In Bunuru, it's too hot to travel far, so people would stay near the water.
I like that because it gives a reason for our behavior.
Yeah.
We aren't just being lazy sitting in the shade. We're adapting, just like people have done for thousands of years. It feels more grounded.
It connects them to the environment. But a word of caution here. Avoid the abstract. Don't try to teach dates or timelines or show them climate maps. Keep it to what the child can see in their own backyard.
So we've done science, we've done context. What about the creative kids? The ones who just want to play with dolls or draw? The notes mention dramatic play, which sounds fancy, but it's just playing pretend, right?
It's just playing pretend, but with a purpose. This is where you build empathy. You can set up a little scenario, caring for dolls or toy animals in the heat.
So the toddler is just mimicking, giving the doll a drink.
Baby is thirsty. Simple. But for the foundation child, you introduce problem solving. You might say, oh no, the animals are out in the hot sun. Where can they rest? And then the child has to, build a shelter with blocks or find a shady spot under a chair.
That's engineering and problem solving right there.
And it is huge socially. When a child moves a doll to the shade, you can say, you noticed your friend needed shade. That was kind. You're building social emotional skills and safety skills at the same time. They're practicing looking out for others.
Which is eventually what we want them to do for themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk literacy before we wrap up. Because when we think school, we think reading and writing. But at this age, for this topic, the focus seems to be entirely oral.
Oral language is the absolute foundation of literacy. If they can't speak it and understand it, they won't be able to write it later. We touched on this with the synonym problem, but it applies to how you talk about their play, too.
What about actual writing? Should we be making them write sun 10 times on a page?
No, please don't. That just kills the joy. But you can do what's called mark making. Give them chalk. Let them draw in the shade. It's draw a circle with lines. You just narrate, you drew the sun. That looks hot.
Ah, so you're connecting their mark to a meaning.
You're connecting meaning to the mark. If they want to write an S, great. But no tracing worksheets, meaning over mechanics, always at this age.
I want to circle back to the parent who's listening and still feeling a bit anxious. We've talked about science, math, arts, but without a checklist, it's hard to feel like you've actually done school. Can we just reassure them? By doing these things, playing with ice, putting on hats, is this really enough?
It is more than enough. I mean, think about what we've covered. You're doing physics with the ice. You're doing biology with body awareness. You're doing algebraic sequencing with the get ready routine. You're doing geography and cultural studies with Bunuru.
And we haven't opened a single textbook.
Not one, and that's the point. The developmental science is crystal clear. Children at this age learn through engagement, not by listening passively. If your child puts on a hat because they know the sun is strong, they have mastered the concept.
So let's do a quick don't list, because sometimes knowing what not to do is the most helpful thing.
The don't list is crucial for your sanity. Number 1, no worksheets, just recycle them. Number 2, no asking kids to repeat words back to you like a parrot. And number 3, no quizzes. Stop asking how many cups, just to check if they're counting.
And the big one, no scientific jargon.
No ultraviolet, no vitamin D, no ozone. They don't have the abstract thinking for that yet. Keep it concrete, hot, strong, burn, shade.
And that golden rule we mentioned.
If you have to stop the play to teach, you've gone too far. The learning should be embedded in the play, not an interruption to it.
That's such a good litmus test. If I have to say, stop running so I can tell you about the sun, I've lost.
You've lost the moment, yeah.
I want to recap that rhythm one more time because I think it's the tool that makes all this manageable. Prime, play, pause, repeat.
Prime. Set the intention. The sun is strong. Play. Let them explore. You narrate. Pause. Ask one reflection question. How did the sun feel? and repeat. Do it all again tomorrow with the same simple words.
It really takes the pressure off us to be the lecturer. We're just the narrator of their discovery.
You're the guide. And honestly, foundation literacy and numeracy are oral and experiential. You're just naming what is already happening.
So to the listener who's standing in their kitchen, sweating, watching their kids run around and feeling that guilt, you are doing enough. The hat is the lesson, the ice cube is the textbook.
And the shade is the classroom.
I want to leave you all with a thought today that really struck me from the research. We often think teaching requires us to talk at children. We feel like if our mouths are moving, we're doing our job. But at this stage of development, these foundational years, the most powerful teaching tool isn't your explanation. It's your silence while they discover the shade for themselves.
That moment where they step out of the sun and just go, ooh, that's better, without you saying a word. That's it. That's where the neuron connects. That is where the learning becomes permanent.
So the question is, can you trust the play enough to stay quiet? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay cool out there.
And keep your hat on.